I cheated on my husband 14 times with his best friend and other guys, and now I don't know what to do about it. My husband and I have been married for 2 years. We're best friends, so we've had a really good relationship. We got married after 6 months of meeting each other. During that whole time, I met a lot of his friends, including his best friend. But he told me he had another best friend who was going to be traveling for a full year. One day, my husband tells me that all his friends are getting together to greet their best friend, the one who had been traveling for a full year. We show up to the party, and it turns out that this best friend is a woman. Not just any woman, one that looks like she could model for Vogue. This woman was so good looking, I instantly got insecure. When her and my husband saw each other, they ran to each other's arms. Then I spent the entire night trying to be included in the conversation. Every time I would ask a question, she would answer it to my husband. She would never even look me in the face. Finally, I asked her if she had a problem and she said, "No, I'm sorry. I'm just really excited to see my best friend." When we got in the car, I told my husband I didn't like her. Then he said that he knew exactly what I was going to say. And he also said not to worry because I wouldn't never have to hang out with her. And that he would hang out with her without me, just to save me the trouble. That's when he told me that he would hang out with his girl best friend without me, so that he could save me the trouble of having to see her face. Then I asked him if he thought that she was more attractive than me, and that if he preferred to be with her than with me. He started to laugh and said no, and he felt offended that I would even ask him. So basically, he didn't even answer my question. Sometimes he would tell me that he would go hang out with her at bars. I would stay home and just literally cry the entire time. I would get sick to my stomach picturing my husband hanging out with this Vogue model. That's when I reached out to my husband's best friend and asked him what the deal with her was. And this man spilled all the tea. He told me that they had all been best friends since college, and that the Vogue model was basically in love with my husband the entire time they were in college. But my husband never paid attention to her. But then he told me that they ended up hooking up one night, and that after that my husband was hooked. But then she didn't want to be with him. Instead, they decided to stay best friends. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. After finding out that my husband had hooked up with his girl best friend who was really attractive, I vomited. Even though this was before I had met him, something told me that she was probably still in love with him. That's when my husband's guy best friend who had just told me everything invited me over to his house. And then the idea just came to me. I'm gonna start hooking up with whoever I want if my husband's gonna be doing it with his best friend. So I went over to this guy's house, we had a few drinks, and I hooked up with him. Did I regret it? Absolutely not. I felt liberated. It's like I had gotten revenge on my husband. So after that, I went on a rampage. I tried to hook up with as many of his friends as possible. Exactly 6 guys. Then I looked for the guys that I liked in college, and I hooked up with a bunch of them too. In total, 14. This all happened in a month. But now my husband told me that his best friend, the girl that I thought he was hooking up with, is pregnant from another guy and that they're getting married. And that the whole time she was away traveling for a year, she was with this man. Now I feel like a total asshole. What should I do?
Storytime about why I will never let my sister pet sit for me ever again. So a little background information, I was 18 and it was the summer before my freshman year in college. And it was towards the end of the summer, so I decided that I wanted to take a vacation with a few of my girlfriends before we all went off to the different colleges that we were going to. And I have a lot of pets. I have 4 hamsters, 2 snakes, a tarantula, 2 birds, and 1 fish. So I asked her if she could watch all of them. She said yeah, so I wrote her out a schedule of when they need to be fed. And I wasn't even going to be gone a week, so it would be pretty easy because I already cleaned all their tanks and everything like that. And I wasn't worried at all because I trusted my sister. She had 2 dogs and a cat, so I thought she was going to be fine. I called her the first 2 days. Everything seemed to be going well. And I called her on the 4th day, and she didn't answer the phone. So I called my mom, asked her if she could get a hold of her. And my mom said that she spent the 2 days at her boyfriend's house. And the worst part was, my sister was the only one with a key to my apartment. So my sister calls me the next day, and she's like, "Hey, sorry, I was at my boyfriend's house." And I was like, "Who fed the animals?" And she was like, "Well, I just put enough in their cages so that way they would be fine for 3 days. And she was like, "Don't worry, I'll sleep over there tonight to make sure they're okay." So I'm having a fucking panic attack right now. Anyways, so fast forward, I get home early in the morning and my sister's sleeping on the couch, but my sister brought over her animals too. So I wake my sister up and I'm like, "Hey, how are all the animals?" She's like, "Oh, they're fine." And then we walk into the kitchen and the fucking bird cage is open. And my birds are missing. And her cats are nowhere to be found. So now I'm freaking the fuck out. So then I go to check on the rest of my animals. So like I said, we walk into the kitchen and the bird cage is open and my birds are nowhere to be found and neither is her cat. So at that point, I run to check on all of my other animals. Thankfully, the snakes were fine. So I go to check on my tarantula and he's missing. So now I grabbed my sister's dogs, locked them in my room, and I went to go check on my hamsters. Yeah, she forgot to feed them the whole week because one of them ate the other one. So at this point, I'm having a mental fucking breakdown and I'm moving all the furniture in the living room and everything like that. And we lift up the couch and we see her cat bolt out from under the couch. After that, I look under the couch and my bird is literally torn into pieces under the fucking couch. A few days later, she texted me and she was like, hey, like, I feel so bad. Like, let me buy you a new bird and a new tarantula. And to this day, 2 years later, I still don't know what happened to them.
Am I wrong for pretending to be a sugar baby to humiliate someone? I, a 31 female, recently moved into my boyfriend's 42 male house. We've been together 5 years. I'm friendly with almost all of his friends except for his best friend's girlfriend who hates me. I'll call her Elle. Elle thinks I'm a gold digger. My boyfriend does make a lot more money than me, but I have a decent job, work hard, and I make okay money. Part of the reason she thinks this about me might be because we've got different backgrounds. He and most of his friends grew up wealthy and I grew up working class. She's forever making little digs at my background. I'm from a poorer part of the country with a strong accent and trying to pass it off as banter. For the record, I banter with my boyfriend all the time about our backgrounds. She doesn't do this in front of my boyfriend, and I've never really brought it up with him except for in passing because I just find it funny. Since I moved in with him, she's made non-stop comments to me about how I must be so happy I've bagged him because I never have been able to live in a place like this otherwise. A few weeks ago, she even told me she was expecting me to announce a pregnancy to lock him in. I can't have children, but she doesn't know that. When she said that, it got to the point that it was no longer funny to me, so instead of laughing it off like I normally do, I decided I'd just play along. The next time she made a comment, I just smiled and placed a hand on my stomach. She looked shocked but didn't say anything. A little later on, she commented on how stressful it must be to not have a full-time job. So I just said something like, well, I won't need to worry about that soon, and kind of smiled again. I'm not sure why I thought this was a good idea, but I was enjoying how angry it was making her, so I kept doing it. That's because it is a good idea. I love it. Last Friday, at a meal out with my boyfriend and a group of friends, things came to a heat. I wasn't drinking, and in the middle of the meal, she brought it up and said something like, it's weird to see a person from your region sober. I laughed it off, but then she kept asking why I wasn't drinking, even after I said I was on a diet. Eventually, she just blurted out, you must be happy you're expecting Miles, but I thought you didn't want kids. I pretended to be shocked and looked over at Miles and said, actually, I can't have children. Literally, everyone was silent. I got up and left and Miles followed me. She was apparently mortified. At that moment, it felt great, but on reflection, I think I might have taken it too far. I've since heard that her boyfriend is sleeping at a different friend's house and the rest of the group aren't talking to her. I'm feeling more and more like an asshole and I'm wondering if I should come clean and tell everyone I deliberately misled her into thinking I was pregnant. My boyfriend knows this and thinks she had it coming. So, am I the asshole?
Story time about when I got it on with a cactus. When I was around 14, a friend of mine used to live on a farm, and whenever I visited, which was practically every weekend, we would spend hours scouring the property looking for any kind of war memorabilia. Their property was huge, so we would go as far as we could, playing games and searching for war artifacts. For context, we live in South Africa. The farm is situated in an area where the Anglo-Boer War took place. We have found what we believe to be unmarked graves of soldiers and cannonballs. On one particularly hot day, we ventured quite far. After spending hours just messing around and not finding anything, we came across a cactus. Seeing as we were hot and thirsty, we decided to put the movie trope to test, the trope being that cacti contain copious amounts of water. My friend, being ever resourceful, had a knife with him, so we cut off a piece for each of us, and we hoped that we would be rewarded with the sweet, watery nectar of the cactus. We, of course, discovered the crushing truth. That the movies lied to us. The interior of the cactus piece was hollow and fleshy. There was a rather viscous fluid. It was too thick to flow properly. We then had another bright idea. Seeing as the cactus piece was hollow and fleshy, this would be a great masturbatory tool, and to get experience what sex felt like. So we both went out of view from each other and got down to the deed. Boys and girls, the interior of the cactus felt cold and hard to my erect member. Not pleasurable at all. After a short time of doing the cactus, I got bored as it didn't feel too great. I removed the cactus, and to my horror, there on my glistening wiener were worms wiggling all over my D. I screamed in terror and began swatting the offending creatures off my member. My friend came running to see what the issue was, and upon explaining it to him, he fell to the floor in hysterics. I was terrified of getting an infection. I had no clue how I would explain this to my folks or to the doctors. Luckily, all that happened was a mentally scarred experience, and my friend teasing me for years.
Well, hello. It's your friendly neighborhood therapist who thought she could save these hoes, but got her job terminated as a result. Story time? I think yes. Shit you not, I posted a video on Monday telling men that their dusty behavior is only harming them and that they would benefit from emotional intelligence, and I shit you not, by Friday, didn't have employment. All of this started with a Psychology Today article stating that men are lonelier than ever because they have no fucking emotional skills. And I agreed and doubled down and told y'all that y'all lives would radically improve if you expanded the shit that came out your mouth. But instead of healing, y'all will do anything but that. Instead of being accountable like, hey, this bitch see me, stirred a little bit, y'all got so hurt that you contacted massa. That's exactly what happened. So first the post goes viral on Twitter. Cause y'all need fucking help. And y'all wanted to argue with bitches blue till they fucking blue in the face. Some of you hoes is not gonna be saved. And that's the conclusion that I've come to. So because this shit's gone viral, I'm thinking, okay, cool. We starting a discussion on mental health and people are, you might not like my fucking delivery, but motherfuckers is starting to talk, you know, shaking the tables. I don't give a fuck. But then it turns into this entire crusade of attacking a black woman who serves the fucking black community. There were comments like, I'm gonna find her credentials and report her because I told y'all to be better. Yeah, y'all are fucking weird. Y'all scream that y'all want to protect women, protect black women specifically, but have done nothing to protect this black woman who has been serving the communities. I have been violated in several areas, and I'm gonna outline each one. This article was written by a fucking black woman, putting my full government and my place of employment. So being doxxed by a black woman, can't fake, kind of fucking hurts, and she never once reached out to me or contacted me so I could spend my side of the story. This is the article that spooked my fucking job and got me fired. Not only does she not have any regard for my safety, many other articles have been written as a result. Here are a few of them, just to name a few. Black Twitter has words for therapists scolding men to go to fucking therapy. Y'all attacked me and got mad at me because I wanted better for y'all. That's the most crab in the barrel bucket type bullshit I've ever heard in my fucking life. A plethora of black men decided to take it upon themselves to call my employment to get me fired. You succeeded, but you succeeded in not the way that you think. If it's one thing about black women is that we're incredibly resilient. This just cleared the table to give me space and opportunity to educate the masses while shaking our asses to healing because y'all got mad because I wanted you to do better. I was told they consulted with shareholders and decided to terminate my contract because I told y'all to go to therapy. That's the world we live in.
Can't sleep, so I want to tell you what's keeping me up at night. Have you ever been interviewed by a British person? Okay, I'm so sorry. My mom just reminded me of the story, so it's so funny to me. Like, it's fresh, you know? So, it's not fresh. It's actually, like, years old. Okay, basically, when I moved for high school, right? Like, I moved schools. I went from Jordan to, like, a national Arabic school to, like, a British international school in Saudi Arabia, right? So, naturally, there had to be an interview. My mom came with me for the interview. There was also an entrance exam, whatever. So we're in the car, and my mom's, like, giving me, like, a pep talk, you know? And my mom was just sitting with me, and she's like, oh, you should probably buy a new ship. And I was like, ship is a slipper, by the way. And I was like, how come? Like, I always wear Crocs. She's like, well, we might have some use for them if you fail the exam or you fail this interview. Understand? And I was like, out and clear, mama. Out and clear. No, I'm not getting the ship. I do the exam, I ace it, I pass, and now it's interview time. So I sit down. My principal's name is William. Bro, like, it was so stupid, but everyone called him Mr. Will I Am. Like, like, Mr. Will is a British old white man. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, it's Mr. William. It's Mr. Will I Am. Like, it's so crazy. But it was so funny for no reason. But anyways, I didn't know that at the time, you know? So I came in, sat down. I was just like, let me just not speak Arabic in this interview. Like, that's my one and only mission. So when we first sat down, it was just a lot of like, hi, how are you, whatever, right? And like, I quickly realized that my mom is not understanding his accent at all. So she just kind of checked out mentally. She was just there to monitor, you know? So I was just like, okay, like, let's get into this, you know? Now it's like really awkward. It gets silent. He stares at me and he just goes like, so tell me more about yourself. And I was just like, well, I do a lot of sports. I do swimming, golf. Don't ask. I did not have any control over the sports that I did when I was a kid. Don't ask. Golf. I was like, yeah, this is not whatever. And he's like, oh, for someone so into athletics, your body doesn't reflect that. I was like, my mom didn't catch that. It's honestly fine. So I just had to take it because, again, my only mission was to fucking pass. It's fine. So I'm sitting down. He's looking at me and he's just like, so in regards to English, is it your first or second language? And I was like, oh, it's my second language. And I was like, and I look at my mom. My mom's giving me this look where she spoke without speaking, you know? My parents gave me one rule in the house. They were like, when you're asked, is English your first or second language? You always say first. You say Arabic, I barely know her. And I specifically said English was my second language. I fucked up. I saw it in my mom's eyes. She wanted to murder me. Like, she wanted to kill me. Like, it was over. Convinced him that English was my first language, a crisis averted. And then he just goes like, okay, last question. Who's your favorite artist and what's your favorite painting? And I was like, fuck? I don't know anyone's name. And I was just like, the Mona Lisa and Leonardo da Vinci.
Regarding my daughter and my husband getting in an accident, because I really didn't think anybody would comment or watch it, and there's a lot of comments and I can't answer them back, but yes, they are okay. They were coming home from my daughter's flag football practice. They called and said, hey, we're at CVS, which is like 2 lights away. We're on our way. We're leaving now. So I grabbed the baby and I'm like, let's go sit out on the step and wait for Daddy and Sissy. So we were sitting out there. When I heard that noise, I instantly knew, obviously, that it was a car accident, because we live about 2 houses in from the front of our neighborhood where an intersection is. And I just had a really bad feeling because I knew that they were so close. They were about 2 lights away that basically they should have been pulling up right then. So when I heard that, I forgot that I was even videoing with my son, and I just took off running to them. And it was them. When I peeked down past the trees, I seen it was them, and my mom and dad at the time lived 2 blocks away from us. So I was getting on the phone to call her to come up there and help me out. They are okay. It was a couple years ago. It just popped up on my memories. My husband ended up having a sprained ankle and a concussion. My daughter just had some road rash, I think from the airbag and stuff. Pretty cut up, bruised up. She was sore, pretty traumatized after that. My sister passed away in a car accident in 2014, and her and my daughter were really close. So my whole family was very close. So everybody took it really hard. So when that happened 3 years after my sister passed away, I think it was traumatizing for all of us. She didn't want to go through that intersection for a long time. And there's actually, that intersection's terrible. There's been, I think, 7 accidents there since we've lived here in 7 years. And I think last year, somebody actually died up there, a lady. And we've seen all of them. I heard one on the anniversary of my sister passing away. I was sitting on the step in the morning, just thinking. And I actually heard an accident, and it was a lady and her son. I helped get him out, kept him busy for a little bit, and we seen one guy flew out the window. It's just that intersection is honestly just terrible, but they are okay. I will attach some pictures of the car and family photo, last one, and it's my oldest daughter and my husband who were in the accident, and they are healthy and okay, and we just hope that we don't have to go through anything else like that again. And thank you guys for watching it and asking if they're okay and hoping that they're okay.